The combat blade shattered against the mop handle. Instructor Kelthos stared at the impossible fragments of his ceremonial training sword, scattered across the academy floor, then at the cleaning tool that should have splintered into kindling. The human janitor, Sarah something, looked up from her bucket with mild concern. "Oh, geez, sorry about that," Sarah said, adjusting her grip on the mop. "Did I get in your way?" Kelthos couldn't respond, couldn't move, his primary eyes fixed on the mop handle while his secondary pair darted to his cadets, who stood frozen in their training formation. The blade he'd been demonstrating with, forged from Durasteel composite rated to withstand starship hull impacts, had struck the wooden handle of a cleaning implement and shattered like glass. "Instructor?" Cadet Jitaro ventured. "What just—" Silence. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Kelthos stepped closer to the human, his training taking over even as his mind reeled. The mop handle had a chip in its paint where his blade had connected. Underneath, something gleamed. Not wood, not metal either, but something that made his combat implants scream warnings about threat assessment failures. He knelt, picking up one of the blade fragments. The molecular edge, designed to hold sharpness for 50 standard years, had been compressed into powder at the point of impact. "Ma'am," he said carefully, his translator struggling with the sudden formality. "Where did you acquire that cleaning tool?" Sarah glanced at her mop like she'd never really looked at it before. "This? Storage closet on level 7, I think. The regular mops kept breaking, so I grabbed whatever looked sturdy." She smiled apologetically. "Been using it for like 3 months now. It's actually really well balanced." Kelthos reached out slowly. "May I?" "Sure, yeah." Sarah handed it over, then immediately grabbed a spare from her cart. "I should probably finish this section before the next class anyway." The moment his combat-trained hands touched the handle, every tactical system in his neural augments activated simultaneously. Threat matrices overlapped. Historical databases pinged. His secondary heart stopped. Etched along the handle's length, revealed where paint had worn away, were tactical markings. Not just any markings. Kelthos had spent 60 years studying ancient warfare. He'd written his doctoral thesis on pre-Federation combat techniques. These were Zendari warglyphs. The Zendari had gone extinct 4,000 years before Earth had discovered fire. "Instructor Kelthos," another cadet spoke up. "Should we contact— Get Commander Zara." Kelthos didn't look up from the handle. His hands were shaking. "Get her now, and security, and—" He rotated the handle, seeing more markings emerge from beneath layers of industrial paint. His translator couldn't process what he was reading. The dialect was too old, too dead. Get everyone now." Sarah had moved 3 meters away and was efficiently mopping around training equipment, humming something off-key. She glanced back at him. "Is everything okay? You look kinda pale." "Well, paler than usual. Sorry, I don't know if that's offensive. Do you guys have blood pressure? Should I call medical?" Kelthos stared at her. This human, this cleaning staff member in a worn uniform with maintenance stenciled across the back, was using a weapon that belonged in the Galactic Museum of Warfare. A weapon that had been present at conflicts that shaped the entire known galaxy. A weapon that had been wielded by warriors whose names were carved into the Foundation monuments. And she'd been using it to clean floors for 3 months. "How much did you pay for this?" he asked quietly. "For the mop?" Sarah scratched her head. "Didn't pay anything. It was just in the closet, although—" She brightened. "Oh, I did buy some wood polish for it last month. 5 credits at the supply shop. The handle looked pretty rough, but it cleaned up nice." Kelthos felt his combat training, his 60 years of weapons expertise, his 4 advanced degrees in historical warfare, all simultaneously become inadequate to process this moment. "You polished it." "Well, yeah, the wood grain is actually really pretty once you get the gunk off." "Why?" Was I not supposed to touch stuff from storage? The Academy's emergency klaxons began wailing as his distress signal finally processed through the security network. Security Chief Vex Thule arrived in 47 seconds, full tactical armor active, 3 guards flanking him. He assessed the room, combat instructor frozen with cleaning tool, human janitor mopping, cadets standing in confused formation, and his tactical protocols immediately flagged the situation as non-standard. Instructor, report. Kael'thas held up the mop handle. Scan this. Vex Thule's armor sensors swept the object. The readout appeared in his helmet display, then appeared again, then triggered a cascading error sequence that shut down his primary analysis suite. That can't be accurate. He rebooted the system. The molecular signature indicates, no, this is a calibration error. It's not an error. Then you're holding a weapon forged during the Zendari Extinction War. Vex Thule's mandibles clicked in agitation, which is impossible because all Zendari artifacts were catalogued and secured in preservation facilities after the Treaty of... I know the treaty. I wrote the academic commentary on it. Sarah's mop squeaked against the floor as she worked her way around a training dummy. Are you guys going to be much longer? I've got 6 more rooms on this level, and the cafeteria gets really gross if I don't hit it before lunch. Both officers turned to stare at her. Ma'am, Vex Thule approached with the careful movements of someone approaching unexploded ordnance. That implement you've been using. Where exactly did you find it? Storage closet, level 7. Room 7C, I think. Sarah paused her mopping. Look, if this is about requisition forms, I'm sorry. The regular mop supplier has been back-ordered for weeks, and I needed something that wouldn't snap every time I... You've been using this to clean? Vex Thule's translator added an edge of hysteria it probably shouldn't have been capable of. Yeah? That's what mops do? Kael'thas rotated the handle again, his hands still trembling. There are more markings. Chief, do you see this secondary line of glyphs? Vex Thule looked closer. His armor's database access expanded to historical archives. The translation appeared in his display. He took 3 steps backward. That's Catharian battle script from the Reformation Wars. Yes, the Reformation Wars were 6,000 years ago. Yes. 2,000 years before the Zendari conflict. Yes. They both looked at the handle again, then at each other. This weapon witnessed multiple galactic wars, Kael'thas said quietly. Conflicts separated by millennia. This shouldn't exist. This can't exist. The metallurgical degradation alone would have... I might have sharpened it a little, Sarah interjected. The edge was pretty dull when I found it. I thought that was weird for a mop handle, but my grandpa always said good tools deserve good care, so I used the whetstone from my... You sharpened it? Both officers shouted simultaneously. Sarah jumped slightly. Was I not supposed to? I mean, it's holding up great now. Cuts through stuck-on grime like butter. Very satisfying. Kael'thas felt something in his worldview crack. You applied abrasive force to a quantum-bonded ceremonial blade from the pre-Federation era. I used a whetstone and some oil. Took like 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Kael'thas looked at Vex Thule. She applied primitive sharpening techniques to a weapon that represents 12,000 years of military history. Hey now, Primitive, Sarah frowned. My grandpa's techniques were perfectly... The door exploded open. Commander Zara strode in, her command armor's sensors already active, 4 historical consultants scrambling behind her carrying portable analysis equipment. Someone explain, she snapped, why my entire academic alert system just suffered a catastrophic validation failure. Kael'thas wordlessly held up the mop handle. Zara's primary eyes widened. Her secondary eyes widened. Her tertiary eyes, which only opened during extreme emotional distress, snapped open as well. That's General Korvax's personal combat blade. Yes, Commander. Which was lost during the siege of Korvathia. Yes, Commander. 8,000 years ago. Yes, Commander. Zara's gaze shifted to Sarah, who had given up on mopping and was now leaning on her spare mop, looking increasingly uncomfortable with the attention. "And this human has been cleaning floors with it," Vexthul confirmed, "for 3 months. She also sharpened it." Commander Zara's tertiary eyes closed, then her secondary eyes. She took a very long breath. "Somebody," she said carefully, "get the Galactic Museum on Quantum Com. Now." The portable analysis lab materialized in the training room within minutes, carried by 3 separate teams of experts who kept shooting bewildered glances at Sarah. She'd moved to a corner and was eating a sandwich, looking like someone waiting for a very awkward meeting to end. Dr. Zilia, head of the Galactic Military History Institute, ran her scanner over the blade for the 7th time. Each result came back identical. Each result made her question her doctorate. "The quantum bonding is intact," she announced, her voice hollow. "Not just intact, enhanced. The molecular structure has been reinforced at the subatomic level." She looked up at Sarah. "What exactly did you use to sharpen this?" Sarah swallowed her bite of sandwich. A whetstone, the one from my maintenance kit. Got it at a hardware store on Earth." "A stone," Dr. Zilia's antennae drooped. "You used a stone." "Well, yeah, and some honing oil. That's just basic knife maintenance." "Basic knife," Dr. Zilia turned to Commander Zara. "Commander, the edge on this blade is now sharper than when it was originally forged, using techniques we can't replicate with modern technology. This human achieved with a stone what our quantum forges cannot accomplish." Kael'thas had been studying the blade's fuller length, where more markings had been revealed after Sarah's cleaning. His hands had stopped shaking, replaced by a numb sort of awe. "Commander, there are 7 distinct war markings here. 7 separate conflicts. The blade of Korvax didn't just witness 1 or 2 battles, it was present at every major galactic conflict for 12,000 years. "How is that possible?" Vexthul demanded. "The preservation requirements alone would require—" "I oiled it," Sarah offered. "Monthly, sometimes weekly if the humidity in the storage areas got bad. Just regular wood oil, keeps the handle from drying out." Every expert in the room turned to stare at her. "You performed maintenance," Kael'thas said slowly, "on the most significant military artifact in galactic history, while using it to clean floors." "I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds weird, but yeah, basically." Sarah took another bite of her sandwich. "Look, my grandpa ran a butcher shop. He taught me that good blades deserve respect. You keep them sharp, keep them clean, store them properly. I wasn't gonna let a nice piece like this get ruined just because someone shoved it in a closet." Commander Zara made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh and wasn't quite a sob. "A butcher shop." "Best in Boston," Sarah smiled. "Grandpa could break down a whole side of beef in under 10 minutes. His knives were works of art. He always said the blade doesn't care if you're cutting meat or cutting through destiny." She paused. "That's weird that I remember that phrase now. He used to say it all the time, but I thought he was just being dramatic." "Show me," Kael'thas blurted out. "What?" "Show me how you sharpen it." "Please." Sarah looked around at the assembled military leadership, historical experts, and security personnel all staring at her with expressions ranging from desperation to awe. "This is really weird, guys." "Please," Kael'thas repeated. Sarah sighed, set down her sandwich, and approached the analysis table where they'd laid the blade. "Okay, so first you want to check the edge angle." She lifted the blade, holding it up to the light, one eye closed as she sighted along its length. Every expert's scanner activated simultaneously. "Her grip," Dr. Zilia whispered. "That's the Korvathian master's hold. That technique has been lost for 8,000 years." "She's checking the edge using the sight of true steel," another expert added, voice shaking. "That's only mentioned in the most ancient texts. We thought it was ceremonial." Sarah, oblivious to the chaos she was causing, continued her examination. "Edge looks good, but I'd give it a few passes on the fine stone just to maintain it. You want to keep a consistent angle, About 15 degrees for something like this. Grandpa's rule was, let the blade tell you what it needs. She glanced up. Do you guys have a whetstone, or should I grab mine from my locker? Use mine. Kael'thas thrust his personal sharpening kit at her with shaking hands. It contained the finest equipment available to military instructors. Quantum-aligned stones, molecular precision oil, tools that cost more than most civilian starships. Sarah examined the kit with approval. Oh, nice. These are really quality. She selected a stone, applied oil with practiced efficiency, and began working the blade with smooth, confident strokes. The motion was hypnotic, economical, perfect. That's the 7-form meditation stroke, Kael'thas breathed, from the warrior priest tradition of the Old Kingdom. I've spent 20 years trying to master that motion. Yeah, Grandpa called it the spine and slide, Sarah said, maintaining her rhythm. You're using your whole body, not just your arms. Keeps the angle consistent and saves your shoulders during long sessions. Commander Zara pulled up her personal database, scrolling through classified military documents. The spine and slide appears in exactly one ancient text describing how legendary Blademaster Torvesh trained his apprentices. She looked at Sarah with something approaching religious awe. The text is 14,000 years old. Sarah finished her sharpening, wiped the blade clean, and held it up to inspect her work. There, that should hold for a while, assuming you're not using it on anything too tough. I'd check it weekly, though, just to be safe. She handed the blade back to Kael'thas. He took it with trembling hands, activated his combat scanner, and nearly dropped it. The molecular edge coherence is at 99.7%, he whispered. Modern military blades achieve 94% at best. Ancient master-forged weapons reached 96%. This shouldn't be... Is that good? Sarah asked hopefully. I wasn't sure if I got the angle quite right. 23 of the galaxy's finest military experts stared at her in collective silence. Commander Zara set down her datapad with careful precision. Ms. Jackson, I need to understand something. Your grandfather taught you blade maintenance. What else did he teach you? Sarah shrugged. I mean, normal stuff. How to sharpen knives, maintain tools, proper cutting techniques. He was really into teaching the fundamentals. Said modern people forgot that tools have personalities, that you have to listen to what they need. She paused. Also, he taught me how to make really good pastrami, but I don't think that's relevant here. The cutting techniques, Kael'thas interrupted. Could you demonstrate? On what? I don't have anything to cut. Vexthul immediately pulled a training dummy into the center of the room, a military-grade target made from composite armor designed to withstand combat blade strikes. Use this. Sarah looked at the blade in her hands, then at the dummy, then at the assembled crowd of Galactic military leadership. You want me to cut the training dummy? Please. With a mop handle. It's not a mop handle anymore, Commander Zara said quietly. I suspect it never really was. Sarah sighed the sigh of someone who'd given up trying to understand her day. Okay, but if this breaks your dummy, that's not on me. She approached the target, blade held loosely in one hand, and paused. Grandpa always started with stance. He said if your feet are wrong, everything else is wrong. She adjusted her position. Every combat instructor in the room inhaled sharply. That's the foundation stance, Kael'thas said. The first position taught to warriors in the pre-Federation era, the stance that all modern combat forms evolved from. Grandpa called it roots before branches. Sarah shifted her weight slightly, testing her balance. You want to feel connected to the ground, stable but ready to move. She raised the blade. The movement was so natural, so efficient, that it took a moment for the experts to recognize what they were seeing. But when they did, scanners activated frantically, recording from every angle. Sarah struck the dummy 3 times in rapid succession, not with force or aggression, but with precise, economical movements that looked more like meditation than combat. The dummy didn't fall, didn't show any damage. Then it separated into 7 perfectly equal sections, each cut so clean that the molecular bonds hadn't even registered the separation until gravity took over. "Grandpa called that one finding the seams," Sarah said, lowering the blade. "Everything has weak points where it wants to come apart naturally. You just have to pay attention and cut with the grain, not against it." She looked at the collapsed dummy. "Oh man, I really did break your dummy. Sorry about that." Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Dr. Zelia's scanner was displaying data that shouldn't exist. The cuts went through molecular bonding points with 100% accuracy. She didn't break the material. She convinced it to separate along optimal stress lines. That technique is theoretically possible but has never been achieved. The computational requirements alone would need— "I just felt where it wanted to come apart," Sarah said, "like cutting meat. You work with the structure, not against it." Commander Zara pulled up a classified file, her hands shaking slightly. "There is a legend. One of the oldest in galactic military history, a warrior tradition that predated technology, that relied on understanding materials at an intuitive level rather than through analysis. The tradition died out because no one could teach it. The masters said it required feeling the blade's intention. Your grandfather," Kael'thas said slowly, "taught you the foundational principles of combat that the galaxy spent 10,000 years forgetting. Principles we've been trying to rediscover through technology and analysis. He taught you by making you maintain knives in a butcher shop." Sarah looked uncomfortable. "I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds way more impressive than it was. He just showed me how to take care of tools and do my job properly." "Ms. Jackson," Commander Zara said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Military Academy, I would like to offer you a position as cultural consultant and master instructor. Your knowledge represents the missing links in our understanding of ancient warfare techniques. The historical significance alone—" "I'm going to stop you right there," Sarah interrupted. "Look, this has been super weird, and I'm glad I could help, but I like my job. Janitorial work has good hours, decent benefits, and nobody expects me to attend meetings. If you want to pay me extra to show your instructors some of Grandpa's knife tricks during my lunch break, sure, but I'm not becoming a consultant or whatever." Commander Zara blinked. "You're refusing?" "I'm saying I already have a job I like." Sarah held up the blade. "Can I keep using this? Now that I've got it cleaned up and properly maintained, I'd hate to start over with a new mop handle." After 40 minutes of debate, 3 emergency consultations with legal counsel, and 1 heated argument about artifact preservation protocols, Commander Zara made her decision. The blade stays with Ms. Jackson. Dr. Zelia looked like she might faint. "Commander, that weapon belongs in a museum." "That weapon," Zara replied, "has survived 12,000 years of galactic warfare, multiple extinction events, and the collapse of 6 civilizations. It spent the last 3 months being used to clean floors and received better maintenance than our entire museum collection combined." She looked at Sarah, who was checking her watch. "Ms. Jackson, the blade is yours. We'll log it as extended loan to civilian cultural expert." "Cool. Can I go? The cafeteria really does get gross if I wait too long." "One condition," Kael'thas interjected. "You mentioned showing us your grandfather's techniques during lunch breaks. I'd like to take you up on that offer, for myself and any instructors who want to learn." Sarah considered. "Lunch breaks only, and you have to buy your own whetstones. I'm not lending out Grandpa's kit." "Agreed." "Also," Sarah added, "I'm not doing any formal teaching. If you guys want to watch me maintain equipment and ask questions, fine, but I'm not writing lesson plans or whatever." "That's acceptable." Commander Zara pulled Kael'thas aside as Sarah gathered her cleaning supplies. "You understand what this means? That humans independently developed combat techniques parallel to our most ancient warrior traditions? That humans learned them as children, as basic life skills, while we spent millennia trying to reconstruct them from fragments." Zara watched Sarah hoist her mop bucket onto her cart, the legendary blade of Korvax tucked casually beside spray bottles and rags. I'm issuing an academy-wide directive. All human staff are to be interviewed about their hobbies, their family traditions, anything they learned from grandparents or parents about tools, crafts, or maintenance. You think there are more like her? I think, Zara said carefully, that we've been treating humans as technologically primitive because they're new to space. But humanity preserved practical knowledge across generations in ways we've forgotten. They didn't lose the fundamentals when they gained technology. Kael'thas nodded slowly. I'll need to restructure the entire combat curriculum. Do it. And Instructor? Yes, Commander? Reserve me a spot in those lunch sessions. I want to learn what a human butcher's grandson can teach about warfare. Sarah pushed her cart down the corridor, humming the same off-key tune from earlier. The blade that had witnessed the fall of empires rattled gently against a bottle of floor cleaner. She checked her list: cafeteria, 3 classrooms, the officers' lounge. Behind her, the training room buzzed with activity. Experts scrambled to document everything. Instructors argued about curriculum changes. Commander Zara was already on quantum comm with the Galactic Military Council, trying to explain how a human janitor had casually demonstrated techniques that were supposed to be lost to time. Sarah turned a corner and nearly collided with another janitor. "Hey, Sarah! You look stressed. Long day." "You have no idea, Mike. Hey, you still have that antique toolbox your dad left you? The one with the hand planes?" "Yeah, why?" "Maybe don't mention it to anyone here. Like, anyone. Trust me on this." Mike gave her a confused look but shrugged. "Sure, whatever. You coming to poker tonight?" "Wouldn't miss it. I'll bring those donuts from the good bakery." She continued down the corridor, leaving Mike puzzled behind her. In her cart, between the spray bottles and the blade that had carved its way through galactic history, sat a small photo in a plastic sleeve. An old man in a butcher's apron, grinning at the camera, a knife in his weathered hands. Sarah smiled at it. "Guess your weird sayings weren't so weird after all, Grandpa." She reached the cafeteria and surveyed the work ahead. Tables needed wiping, floors needed mopping, and somewhere in the galaxy, military historians were having collective breakdowns about human butcher shop philosophy. Just another Tuesday. She got to work, the legendary blade humming softly as it helped her move a stuck chair. Behind her, the universe quietly adjusted to the fact that humanity had been carrying the lost wisdom of ancient warriors in their garages, hardware stores, and family traditions all along, and nobody had thought to ask.